A year ago, the United States was about to go to war in Kosovo, a war designed by politicians.
We all would have liked to have solved this diplomatically.
Serbian leader Milosevic was supposed to bend under the threat of NATO bombs, and the Allied forces would never really go to war.
It was very clear this wasn't going to be a three-night war, that Milosevic was digging in.
A year later, Milosevic is still in power, Kosovo in ruins, and the U.S. military will remain for a very long time.
I mean, do you think that if we left tomorrow, it's all okay?
What did the largest military offensive since the Gulf War really accomplish? Tonight, Frontline reveals the inside story behind the war in Europe. It was here, at the State Department, inside the Secretary of State's office, that the war in Europe against Serbian leader Slobodan Milosevic had its most powerful advocate. In inscribing this photograph, President Bill Clinton joked that being blind to evil was not Madeleine Albright's problem.
I believe in learning lessons, and I believed that it was very important to make clear that the kinds of things that Milosevic does, which is decide that because you are not his ethnic group that you don't deserve to exist, is unacceptable. And it is not just a lesson for Kosovo, but it is not American to stand by and watch this kind of a thing.
In fact, more than any other leader in Washington, Madeleine Albright was driven by a sense of America's role in the world and the chance to use power to rectify the most distant outrage. Outrage makes its home in the Balkans. There, in a province called Kosovo, deep in the former Yugoslavia, Madeleine Albright saw an opportunity to test her doctrine of virtuous power. Kosovo is a place heavy with history and foreboding. For centuries, the Serbs have revered Kosovo as the sacred ground of their ancestors. In recent history, the ethnic Albanians that live there and believe it is their land have chafed under Serbian oppression. At the end of the Cold War, when Yugoslavia fell apart and nationalism ignited the Balkans, Kosovo seemed a calamity waiting to happen. The Kosovo question worried the Clinton administration, as it had the Bush administration before it.
A number of powers had very strong interests in Kosovo and in that general region. The Albanians did, the Greeks did, the Turks did, the Bulgarians did, as well as the Serbs. And therefore, something happening there could have brought about a wider war, even with the possibility of some of our NATO allies on opposite sides.
What worried both administrations was the prospect of civil war in Kosovo and the likely response from Europe's most ruthless man, the Serbian leader, Slobodan Milosevic. For Milosevic, Kosovo was his people's holy land. He could not give it up, and stay in power. But there were stirrings of rebellion in Kosovo. Talk of independence was in the air.
By 1998, the ancient hatreds in Kosovo erupted into a cycle of provocation and violent retribution. The result was a plague of ethnic cleansing that threatened to create an international nightmare in the Balkans. Slobodan Milosevic's Serbian police had begun a campaign to root out and brutally eliminate a rebel band called the Kosovo Liberation Army. They struck a village called Prekaj, determined to eliminate the family of a local rebel leader.
We could hear the sound of gunshots and tanks. Uncle Adem told us not to be afraid, and we went into the basement. We lay on the floor and covered ourselves with blankets. They threw in a grenade. Grandma was blown into the next room. Almost everyone was killed. My sister started begging for water and calling out, "Mother, Mother."
But her mother was already dead. And so were more than 50 others. Nearly the entire family. The Kosovar rebels were badly outgunned, but now they had the most potent weapon in this kind of struggle: the television images that might engage America and her allies. But Kosovo invites only the most reluctant intervention. In Washington, Secretary of State Albright believed that American reluctance was part of the problem in the Balkans. The massacre at Prekaj would help her to make her case.
When that massacre happened, we were very concerned about it, and I came down pretty hard in terms of saying that we had learned a lot of lessons out of Bosnia, where we had waited too long to do something, and that we would be judged very harshly if we allowed something like this to happen again.
A refugee from the Nazis, Albright believed that the West had for too long appeased Serbian leader Slobodan Milosevic, who she saw as a brutal dictator who needed to be dealt with forcefully.
Albright's view is that we are about to face another Munich, which means we will not appease aggressors. We have to be forceful. And this is a clear-cut case of aggression, that you have to stand up to aggression, because if you don't do it here, it will happen in other places.
In Washington, Albright faced a problem in her quest to get the Clinton administration behind her idea of threatening Milosevic with force. Her boss, the president, was fighting for his political life because of his affair with Monica Lewinsky.
I want to say one thing to the American people. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky.
The early part of 1998, the White House is preoccupied with very different things. The Monica Lewinsky story has just broken. The notion that at this point you engage in another foreign adventure, that you start using force in a kind of wag-the-dog scenario, was one that was not generally supported in the White House.
Monica! Monica! You had sexual relations with the president?